Hi, my name is Jeff Smith, and I welcome you again to my kitchen. Well, actually, this is not my kitchen. It's Lower Manhattan. What a wonderful place to start talking about immigrant food. We've been a nation of immigrants for 400 years. All of us are immigrants, except, of course, the Native American Indian. Behind me is Ellis Island. Between 1892 and 1954, 17 million immigrants came through this building. They came from all over Western Europe, Eastern Europe. Oh, some had come previously from the slave trade, unwilling immigrants, surely. But with them, the immigrants brought a wonderful culinary history. And we want to begin tasting these. So let's run back to my kitchen, turn on the stoves, and taste our immigrant heritage. Now, if you don't think it's possible to taste the culture of our immigrant ancestors, you've got another thing coming. I have 35 cultures prepared for you in the next few weeks, and I want you to stay with us. If your culture is not mentioned during the time of our 35, please don't write me and say, you clown, you forgot such and such. I've avoided it because I either did you before, or I'm going to do you later, but please don't be upset with me. Stick with the 35. We're going to have a wonderful time. Today we begin with the Welsh. They're a tough old lot, utterly charming. Where did Wales come from? Well, look at the map, and you'll see that Wales is stuck right between Ireland and England. And the people have always felt kind of battered around. You see, Scotland is to the north, but the culture itself goes back a long time. There were people settling there in 500 BC. That's 2,500 years ago. The Celtic peoples from the continent, the Iberians from a portion of Spain came there. And during the 6th and 7th century AD, more recently, you see, the Anglo-Saxons invaded from England and took over the Welsh territory. 1066, William the Conqueror comes, and he begins to build villages, the first villages, towns really, in what we now call Wales. Then it happened. We finally got a king during the 15th century who was part Welsh, an English king. You see, they'd been taken over by the English. They weren't happy about that. No, of course not. But they finally got a king that was part Welsh, Henry VII. And his successor, Henry VIII, you remember him lopping off the head of Anne Boleyn and all that, and seceding from the church in Rome and all. You remember your history. I hope you do. Please understand that he decided that he would unite Wales with England, and a law went out that said the Welsh could no longer speak Welsh. Well, it seems to me that started it, because it puts aside your own pride in your people. So, the 17th century, there were great battles. They were trying to purify the throne of England, and thus came the term Puritans. I bet you didn't know that one. And a lot of the Puritans that came to this country during the 1700s and 1800s were, 1600s and 1700s were Welsh. In the 1760s, Wales it was a poor country. They began to do mining and shipping their tin and coal and ore onto the rest of the continent. And that's when it happened. The great starvation times of Wales hit everyone hard, and they began coming to this country. During the early 19th century, the 1800s, a large number of Welsh immigrated to America, right to Ellis Island, and settled in places like Scranton, Pennsylvania, where they became involved in mining. It was of their old land. Now this, to me, is one of the most terrifying occupations imaginable. Why you would go down to the mine every morning when it's dark and come out every night when it's dark? Well, it was the only thing you could do to take care of your family. My son Channing and I are going down into a slope mine along with the director of the mine, Mr. Thomas Soupy Jr. Now, in the old days, that yellow cart would, of course, been drawn by donkeys. And you go down into the mine. It's not a shaft. You go down 200 feet into the earth, down below the surface of the earth. You had to be tough. You had to be a tough person, I think, to take that. And these immigrants were certainly tough. Look at them. That's not a soft cap she's wearing. She worked as hard as her husband. And then they stood in line, the men stood in line to go down into the mines with their lunch bucket. You were down there all day long, dark in the morning and dark at night. And it's cold down there. But the anthracite coal around Scranton, Pennsylvania, really hard coal, looks like diamonds. Fascinating. But look what you had to do to make a living. Here is a miner, a Welshman no doubt, who's in between 18 inches, an 18-inch opening. He's mining. Of course, very often that would collapse and kill you, and then your 9-year-old son would go down there. because Mama had no insurance, and he would run the donkeys and grow up in the mines. You had to watch for methane explosions. If the flame in your lamp grew up like this, you see, Tom's showing us this carefully, then it could mean the whole mine would blow. All sorts of people were down there mining. The sign is in English, German, Serbio-Croatian, Italian, Polish, Slavic, and Ukrainian. Why is it not in Welsh? They weren't allowed to speak Welsh, but they could sing Welsh. On Sunday, they came from the mines, and they sang. This is a Welsh choir, Cormibian Stradginles, I hope I'm close, who came to us from Wales to sing in America at one place. They sang at the tomb of Dr. Daniel Prethero, who was a Welsh hymn writer and who wanted to be buried in his beloved Scranton. He taught in Chicago for some time. And so they opened their tour of the American continent just in one city, Scranton, and sang at his tomb. These men had ancestors who were all Welsh miners, all of them. So the next night at the Methodist Church, they offered their formal concert, and they entered the sanctuary following the American flag, singing Men of Harlech, which I think is one of the most potent songs ever for the Welsh. And then they joined us. Only in America, I swear. Only in America. Now, I bet you did not know that Amazing Grace is a Welsh tune, a Welsh hymn. I was so taken by these men, I could hardly stand it. Now, there are not many groups that get a standing ovation for Amazing Grace. Craig, my chef, and I were simply flabbergasted. Sunday morning, they offered us a kind of a free concert, I suppose you'd call it, at the Baptist church. This church is filled with Welsh immigrants. You know this hymn? CWM Rhondda. No, this is Diadem. Excuse me. Rhonda's also Welsh. Diadem. I think the greatest hymns of Christendom have come from the Welsh. Kitty Jenkins leads us now in the Lord's Prayer in Wales. I was amazed that so many of the people in the congregation knew the Welsh version of the prayer. I was very touched. Then I understood. You see, they know that the only way to keep a culture going is to teach the children, teach the children. Teach them with music, with language, and of course with food. Merville Harrington is making a spotted bread, I think she called it, a beautiful bread with lots of currants in it. The Welsh love currants. She prepared this for us. We're going to have a tea party. That's what's going to happen. That's one of the things you did on a Sunday. So Gladys Davis is making Welsh cakes, rolling them out at exactly 1/4 of an inch thick. Lots of currants in these too. She cuts them carefully and then fries them on a greaseless hot griddle. Now remember, no grease on the griddle.
Welsh ingenuity.
These women are they worked so hard. Look at that, she has the daffodil on. The daffodil and the leek are symbols of the classic Welsh culture. The daffodil goes back to Henry VII, the father of Henry VIII. Well, that was a pretty brilliant remark, but in any case, it's true. And the daffodil picked up its image of an emblem for Wales because the leek was already an emblem, and in Welsh, Craig's going to try his luck too. In Welsh, the name for daffodil has the word leek in it. So they use both now. The leek itself, the vegetable that you know, and the gorgeous daffodil. Now, it's time for the famous tea sandwiches. Leola Collins has prepared some with salmon and some with watercress, all this sort of thing. Can you see a bunch of Welsh miners having this on a Sunday? Well, you know, when you came out of the mines, you wanted some care and some affection. Kitty Jenkins she set all of this up for us. Oh, she's a blessed woman, just a delight. She's from Wales. She's making some minced tarts, and she rolls her pastry out just paper thin. It's just lovely stuff. And then seals them very carefully. I wish I could find those pans, that nice little round dent in the bottom instead of the square one you see. Seals them very carefully, and then she'll brush them with a bit of water and put a bit of sugar on them, and then bake them off. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. She's wearing a daffodil too, you see. And they wear as much as they can of the old costume. It's hard for us to track it down. A lot of historians, they just don't agree on the background, but the story of the hat, I think, is fascinating. You'll see that some of these women do have the black hat, which marks them over when they were invaded and wore the hat to convince the invaders that there were a lot more men running around that town than they thought they were, and so they were chicken to invade. They saw them running around the tower of the city, and they backed off. Now, Kenwyn Hughes is making a dish called a froth. I hope I'm saying this correctly. It's a little egg crepe with more currants. Good Lord, what would the Welsh eat if it weren't for currants? Isn't she gorgeous? Isn't she just gorgeous? Now she fries them on one side, turns them gently, sprinkles the currants in when it's moist, you see, and then they set them aside and put a splash of lemon juice on them and a little sugar and roll them up and eat them warm. You see, it's wonderful food. But you can see it's all very basic. There's nothing here that startles you in its complexity. But let's have the tea party. See the caps they're wearing? Those were originally men's caps, they tell me, worn to frighten off the invaders. Time for the party. Wonderful people from a wonderful history. Look, Kitty's just putting down an enormous trifle. Isn't that beautiful? Light the candles. Make it for... She told me. Oh, Craig's going to seat her very carefully. Thank you. And I will see to the other lady, and we're set for tea. Kitty told me that a tea party would be terribly typical of Welsh cuisine and Welsh fun and food. So we jumped in, and it was really delightful. My son Channing couldn't believe it. What a good time we had. What a grand time. Now, I must tell you that if you ever go to Wales, be prepared for the Red Dragon. And if possible, maybe you could bring back some of the things that these immigrants have brought back, including the daffodils and wonderful old pottery, because it's a proud culture and a very ancient culture going back 2,000 years. Let me cook some food, but first of all, I want you to see the Welsh language. I am sorry to tell you that I cannot pronounce this. I think it is pronounced Cormebian Sradinlis. I'm nowhere in... Oh, Miss Jenkins, I apologize. I hope she doesn't call and tell me I blew it. I'm sorry. But the food I can do. The food I can do. First of all, I want to do a dish called a froth that she just cooked for us. It's so simple and it's so delicious. Into your food osterizer or food blender. Osterizer is a brand name. I've got to be careful. They don't want me to use that name. So I won't. Into your food blender, put 3 eggs. Always put the liquids in the bottom of a blender. And then we want a cup of flour. And we want 1 3/4 cups of milk. Put some liquids down the bottom so that the flour won't gloop up. I have to run and get some salt. Excuse me a second here. Salt. Here it is. Just a pinch of salt will do us. And then austerize that. Blend it. Excuse me, people. Blend it. On high speed for a bit. So, you have a cup of flour, 3 eggs, a pinch of salt, and 1 3/4 cup of milk. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And this will make our batter. Let me get the burner going, and then we can talk about another dish while the pan's getting hot. There. This is not complex cooking, but the temperature on the pan is very important. You mustn't have it too hot or too cold, of course, and I'll see if I can guess now because I don't have much time to fiddle with this. All right. Let me get some lemon juice out in the meantime. Fresh lemon is best always. Don't use that. What does reconstituted mean? Oh, it sounds like a plot, I think. And my lemon squeezer or lemon reamer. Fresh lemon juice ready to go. Now you're going to say, Smith, you've got seeds in your lemon juice again. Well, I'll avoid those. Just calm down. I'll be fine. I just want to splash a little bit on each one of the pancakes, so it's not going to take a lot, you see. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for my pan to heat, let me throw together a classic liver and pork meatball from Wales. These are a classic dish, and they're a bit strange, it seems to me, just a bit strange. We don't get into liver balls much in this country. The Germans do. Remember that? Okay, here it is. A pound of lean ground pork, coarse ground, a pound of pork fat, and a pound of pork liver, all ground up, you see? Put it in the bowl, and into that you want to add 1 egg. When I mix this up and you start going, ugh, just cool it, will you? There's no other way to mix these things except with your hands. It's delicious food, really. All right, 1 egg, and then I want to add a couple cups of breadcrumbs. You can also use oatmeal. Then it sounds like Scotch haggis, doesn't it? Ooh. I'm sorry, I can't get into that. I just can't do it. And I want a couple of large onions, medium to large onions chopped fairly fine. Now, that's a couple in my book. Now, for seasoning, we want some sage and some thyme, and this is strictly up to you, because the old recipes that I found had very little seasoning. So I'm going to put in a teaspoon of thyme, and then a teaspoon of sage, or maybe a couple, if you like sage, and I do. I just love it. I'm using whole sage, which means that you must rub it. You see? Rub it. There you go. And a little bit of salt, a couple of teaspoons of salt. We've got a lot of meat in here. And a lot of bread filler. Obviously, this was to feed a lot of people for very little money, because the Welsh didn't have a lot of money. The people who live there now still don't. That's what an immigrant is in this country. They come here looking for a better life, and generally they get it. Generally they find it. They work hard. And some pepper. Okay, mix all of that up. And I'll just do that so that you can see me get liver all over my hands and laugh and giggle at one another. Shame on all of us. Mix it up from the bottom. There we are. Then mold these into balls a little bit, let's see, smaller than a baseball and bigger than a golf ball. No, you want them about 1.5 inches in diameter. Mix all of this up. It'll take a minute and it'll all hold together. I'm not going to bother molding them for you. Well, I'll mold one. Why not? Then I think our pan's hot. Something about this size. And if you want to mold them without everything sticking to your hands, then just moisten your hands with water first. That's what I should have done, you see. Mold them about this size, you see. Is that a wild golf ball? I think it is. Place them in a baking pan. Let me get rid of this. Place them in a large baking pan, and then add about a cup of water to the bottom of the pan. And the result will be, bake them at 350 for about, 45 minutes. And the result is really very impressive. There we are. Baked liver and pork meatballs, and they're quite good. Don't yuck at me until you've tried it. Please, for heaven's sakes. That's as silly as yucking at the strange language of another culture. If you could learn to speak Welsh, I think you were a very bright person. I flunked Hebrew in graduate school. I'm terrible with languages, but that would fascinate me. This pan is too hot. I'm going to cool it quickly thusly. I'm going to put some water on the back of it, not the inside. Ha, it's just right. It's just right. A little oil, and I have some oil and some peanut oil, you see, on a saucer. The Welsh in Pennsylvania use Crisco, but I like peanut oil. No big reason for that. They just do, and so do I. All right. Check our batter. Yes, it's fine. Now, what you have to do is put the batter in about 2.5 ounces or so, and then swish it around the pan very quickly. See, so that we cover the pan, and then just as quickly as you can, get a little bit of currant in there. And if your supermarket doesn't carry currants, you tell that manager he's in real trouble, because you can't do Welsh cooking without currants. I'm convinced. There's no way. Just no way in the world. I can't believe a culture eating so many currants. They had currants in everything. They even had we made some scones for you. While that's cooking, look at, we made some scones for you, and the variation on the scones said you might want to add some currants. Well, of course that's what it would say. The Welsh love currants. Aren't they nice? They're not the kind of, we thought they'd be square or triangular shape, but that isn't the way these ladies do it. Now I'm going to turn this. See, just this golden brown. There we are. That's a little too brown for my money. But that's all right. We'll get by. We'll get by. And once it browns on the other side, I think that's long enough. Doesn't take much. I'm going to bring it out of the pan and turn it over. Just flip it on your hand. You see? Set it down. And then immediately sprinkle it with a little bit of lemon juice. I'm just using my fingers. Yes, to avoid the seeds. You were clever to see that. And then roll it up like a crepe. And put it on a platter. I have a whole platter of these all ready for you. Here they are. Frois, Miss Jenkins, you've got to call me again. It's spelled F-F-R-O-I-S. Only the Welsh would spell anything. F-F-R-O-I-S. I don't understand. It's such a fascinating language. But aren't you tickled? Aren't you tickled that these people in Pennsylvania want to teach the children about a language that was illegal at the time of Henry VIII? And then they brought it back. You see? There's a certain sense in which, well, that's the point of this whole series. What the first immigrants felt when they came here was foreignness. But eventually their children wanted to learn about the old ways. So we say, the Jews say this best, what the son wants to forget, the grandson wants to remember. That's the nature of this series on immigrant foods. Let me show you some more from Wales. I have a couple of pies. And one is filled with cold pork. It's a cold pork pie, baked pork, you see, this one. And this one is filled with leeks, because, of course, we must celebrate the beauty of the leek. This is very, very Welsh. And I have some Welsh tea cakes. I tried this recipe that was given me by these wonderful women in Scranton just to be sure that it worked. You know, that's what recipe is for. Easy as not pie. Easy as a Welsh cake. And they're kind of, they're not what you think they are, I promise you that. They're kind of like a scone hit by a truck. They're a little bit flat, but very delicious in flavor. And finally, for the last one, Welsh rarebit really is Welsh. It's cheddar cheese melted down with a bit of butter, and to thin it down, you can put some beer in it. And then you serve it over toast. And you know again, of course, that this is a dish that came from very difficult times, because you could stretch out a little cheese and come on, Smith, make a real mess of this, will you? If you want to sprinkle some paprika on it, fine. I have one Welsh cookbook that suggests putting this under the broiler until it bubbles a little on top. Wouldn't that be good? All right. There. Now, today, have I got everything out here? I think so. No. There's one more thing for you. Hold on. Who invented leek and potato soup? Well, I think there's evidence that points not to the French vichyssoise, which is a very good version, but you see, potatoes and leeks were absolutely common in Wales for a long, long time, hundreds and hundreds of years. So I'm going to put this out and threaten you with a line about it being very Welsh. Indeed, there you are, leek and potato soup. All right. Today, an assortment of Welsh foods, Welsh cakes, Welsh meatballs made with liver, a couple of Welsh pies, some Welsh pastries, and finally some Welsh soup. The point is, the Welsh have been here for a long time, and we've probably not really given them credit for the contributions to the American culture. Next time you go to church and you sing a great hymn, check on it, because I'll lay a 10 to 1 that it came from the very best of the hymn singing of the Christendom, and that is the Welsh. They're wonderful people, interesting cooks, but most of all, they're charming and industrious and have found a whole new life working here with the rest of us in immigrant America. I'm glad we could be together. Till I see you again, this is the Frugal Gourmet. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.